weak, a situation becomes a problem. When the mind is balanced, a situation becomes a challenge. But when the mind is strong, a situation becomes an opportunity. I would like to thank EIRC and ICASA for providing me this platform and this opportunity to share my views with all of you on the topic SA 315 and SA 330 application on SMEs. It is those who have this imperative demand for the best in their natures and who will accept nothing short of it, that hold the banners of progress, that set the standards, the ideals for others, and that's ICI, who have endowed us with the standards on auditing that we need to follow while doing audit of any entity. I'll very quickly go through the contents that I'm going to present during my presentation. That will be regarding the scope and objective of SA 315, its meaning and definition of SMEs, because the topic says application of SA 315 and 330 on SMEs, applicability of risk assessment procedures on SMEs, understanding the entity, then identification and assessment of risk of material misstatement, documentation that needs to be done by the auditor, and then a quick and brief overview of SA 330, finally concluding the topic. Very quickly, what an audit is all about. It's simple. Like an examiner evaluates your paper and gives you grade, similarly an auditor goes to the financial statements of an entity and provides his opinion, expresses his opinion after obtaining enough audit evidence and on obtaining reasonable assurance. SA 315, what this speaks of? Standards on auditing are basically the benchmarks that an auditor needs to follow while doing an audit. It is about identifying and assessing the risk of material misstatement. What is material misstatement? When there is a deviation between the financial reports prepared by an entity and actually what it should have been according to financial reporting framework. If there is a deviation between the two, then that is termed as material misstatement. It's a responsibility of the auditor to identify and assess that material misstatement. How can he do that? He can do that by understanding the entity and its internal control systems. Very quickly, this is all about SA 315. First, the auditor needs to understand the entity's environment, the regulatory factors, the industry factors, the entity's internal control system. Then he'll identify whether there is any element of material misstatement present there, either at the financial statement level or at the assertion level. Then he'll design responses that is covered under SA 330 so that the risks can be reduced to a responsibly low level. Since our topic is more focused on SMEs, a very quick overview of what SMEs are. They have been defined by MSME Act and they have been defined according to the amount of investments made in plant and machinery. When we talk about manufacturing sector, if it is up to 25 lakhs, it's a micro enterprise. Between 25 lakhs up to 5 crores, it's a small enterprise. 5 to 10 crores, it's a medium enterprise. In case of service sector, up till 10 lakhs, micro, 10 to 2 crores, small, and 2 to 5 crores, it's a medium enterprise. SME, normally the most important feature of an SME is there's a possibility of concentration of ownership and management. That is the main reason that would lead to material misstatement that an auditor needs to be very, very careful all about. Significant aspects that we will be discussing during the presentation is risk assessment procedures, understanding the entity, identification and assessment of material misstatement, and finally the documentation. Risk assessment procedures. What are the methods? How an auditor can understand about an entity? He needs to inquire the sales professional, inquire those who are charged with governance, inquire the employees who are working to understand the accounting policies. Next is analytical procedures. He can use ratio analysis to see if there is any significant variances in the expenses part as compared to the previous year. He can do observation and inspection of the books, like the statutory books which are being maintained by the entity. Next, understanding entity and its environment, very important point. He needs to understand the industry nature, what is the industry life cycle pattern, then what are the basic different features of an industry, whether it's seasonal, fluctuation in that industry, how government is supportive, like in cold chain sector, government is providing different subsidies, capital subsidies. There are many other thrust area sectors where government is providing different kinds of subsidies. So auditor needs to understand that what are the regulatory frameworks and the other external factors that have an impact over that industry. Next, nature of entity, including its business operations, ownership and governance structure. What is the form of business organization, whether it's a proprietorship firm, whether it's a private limited company, or whether it's a partnership firm. The way entity is structured and how it is financed, it's very important to know. It could be an off-balance sheet financing in the form of BGs. In that case, auditor needs to be more focused. Selection and application of accounting policies and reasons for changes thereto, entity objectives and strategies, and those business risks that may result in increased risk. What is business risk? Suppose I launch a product product today, it's not necessary that it will be a successful product. There's a possibility that it could fail. I'd like to quote an example. A few days back, there was an article in the newspaper that in Western countries, a new concept of service has been launched, wherein if a person is angry and he wants to take off his anger, he can go to a place, break off products there, pay the price and come back. What is the benefit he is getting? Instead of breaking things at home and cooling off his anger, he is going to some other place, paying the price for the products he is destroying. It's a new kind of a concept in Western countries. So it's not necessary to be successful or not, but it runs a business risk. So this is how auditor needs to assess what kind of business risk a particular entity is running. Then measurement and review of financial performance has to be done by the auditor. Understanding entities' internal control. Internal control is like at our homes, we have an environment which is normally designed by the senior members of our family. Similarly, at organization, it is those who are charged with the governance, they design the entire system. They design it and implement it with regard to reliability of financial reporting, efficiency of operations, safeguarding of assets, and compliance with applicable laws and regulations. These are the basic components of internal control. You can have a look. Entities risk assessment process, control environment, CARA, that is control activities relevant to audit, information system, and finally monitoring of control. Normally, in case of SMEs, sometimes collusion happens. Two or more people who are charged with the governance, they collide and it could lead to risk of material misstatement. Next, once they are done, they'll identify the risk, whether it's related to fraud or not. After it has been analyzed, the auditor will document it out and communicate it to the management. A quick overview of the 6330. Once the auditor has identified and assessed the risk, he'll check out that whether the efficiency of controls are proper or not. If there is any kind of material weakness identified, he'll communicate it to the management. Further, he could undertake substantial procedures in order to check out the significant risks. And finally, to conclude, in case if he is happy and he feels that sufficient and appropriate audit evidence has been obtained, he'll draw conclusions accordingly. But if he feels that sufficient audit evidence has not been obtained, then he can obtain further audit evidence, or else he can provide a qualified opinion or a disclaimer of opinion. That's all from my side. I'd like to quote one thing before concluding. Excellence is a result of consistently performing towards perfection, and that is what an auditor is expected to do. Thanks all. That's all from